Hey guys, Ethan here from WordTech back with another video, and this is a little bit of a weird one. So you can see I've got the super messy server rack right behind me here, and no, we're not cleaning this up in this video. That's coming in the future because this rack is actually not going to reside in this space for very long. We're finally going to be getting close to being able to move this to the garage, so there'll be a whole other video on that in the future. But what we're actually going to be doing today is working on one of my hypervisor hosts here. Now, I host everything with XCP-ng and then Zen Orchestra on top of that as the orchestration agent. A lot of people use Proxmox now, so I'm going to be doing some more content on XCP-ng because I actually prefer it. Both are fantastic, but I actually prefer it as the product I like to use for virtualization, so I'll be doing more content on that, and there'll be a little bit of that in this video actually as well. So what we're going to be doing here is removing this host and cleaning it, and then it has a GTX 1080 Ti in it, and we're actually going to be pulling another 1080 Ti out of this box that you can't really see very well, but it's off screen right now. I'll try and get closer to that later, but there's a 1080 Ti in that machine that's not being used either, and both of them are going to go in one of these hosts. And then as part of the video, I will be doing PCIe pass-through of the GPU, so I'll show how to do that on XCP-ng. It's really easy. They've made it really easy. It didn't used to be quite as simple, but it's great now. It's all in the GUI in Zen Orchestra, which is fantastic. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to pass through both GPUs, and then I'm going to be building a VM. Now, I haven't fully decided what that GPU horsepower is going to be used for in terms of the a virtual machine that will have access to them yet. I think at first I'm going to be building a Ollama with Open Web UI just to do some like LLM stuff to play around with. I'm not a huge fan of AI, and in fact, it's a cool tool for a lot of things, but it's also destroying so much stuff in general, and like my own power bill has skyrocketed due to AI. I live in Portland, and PGE, who handles the power in Portland, is also who handles the power for like the data center rollouts that are happening in like Hillsborough and stuff that you've probably seen. So that sucks and has caused my power bill to go up. So not really a fan of that, but I feel if you're gonna do it, it should be either for something important like medical research, or it should be something that you're doing with your own hardware. So I'm probably gonna spin that up at first, but I don't know if it'll actually remain that. So it's just two 1080 Ti's. They should be capable of doing, a decent amount. You've got 22 gigs of VRAM there, which ain't too bad. But I may end up moving that over to something more along the lines of like a remote render server or something along those lines. I haven't completely decided yet, but I've got these GPUs, and it's still kind of the GOAT of all GPUs. I feel like in a lot of ways it was the last time we really saw great GPUs. Like, I mean, the modern ones are good, but in terms of like a generational leap and stuff, and I was like, well, I have two of them, so why not? Now, this should get kind of interesting because the host that I'm putting these in is actually my lowest performance host. So the box sitting at the top is a 3970X, so that's a 32-core Threadripper, and then one of the hosts down here is a 1950X, which is a 16 core, and then the one that we're working on is 1920X, which is a 12 core. So those are the three different hosts that I have for that. And the reason that this is going to be interesting is the 1920X Threadripper CPU in there, along with the motherboard, is an Asus board. Asus Prime, I think is what it was. I can't quite remember. It's been a while since I built it. Was purchased off of eBay as secondhand market, and it turns out something was wrong with it, and I'm not sure what yet. So we might be figuring that out as we go through this, because there's either dead PCIe slots, something's wrong with the CPU. There could be bad pins on the motherboard. I'm not sure yet, because some of the DIMM slots don't work, and if I remember correctly, some of the PCIe slots might not work. So this may end up being not worth it, and I may have to use a different host to do this work on instead of the host that I was planning on it. So we'll see, but I figured it was a good time to find out what's really wrong with it if I can get to the bottom of it. So I'll be taking this box out here, which I think is going to be horrible. These are Rosewheel cases, these bottom two down here, and they're actually pretty awful server chassis. I would not recommend them. They're not very good. They're really poorly built. The screws get stripped out easy, and the rails that you can get for them are awful. And I can't remember, one of these is on a shelf and one of them is on rails, and I actually can't remember which is which, so I don't know which host I'm grabbing. I've got to check which fans are on, but if it's the one that's on rails, it's going to be really annoying to deal with, but that is what it is. Now, these are also, they haven't been cleaned in ages. I'm talking like probably 2 to 3 years, so they're going to be really awful on the dirty front, so we'll just have to see what that's like too. But I've got some stuff to clean them out, and then I guess I'll just have to vacuum this space afterwards. But the plan again is to move the server rack into the garage and keep better care of this equipment here in the near future, because this hasn't been a good space for it, and it's a pretty dusty environment in and of itself. So I'd rather keep it in a cleaner space. The garage is not used for normal garage stuff, so it should be a much cleaner space than in here. All right, so you can see that it is already, you can tell it's a mess. I've got this little air cleaner here, not a sponsor. This is the Wolfbox company or whatever. Actually, pretty good product. I'm impressed with it. I know they sponsored other YouTubers and stuff. I'm not looking for anything like that. I'm just genuinely actually surprised that this thing is as good as it is. I use it all the time. So we're going to blow a lot of that dust just back there, and then I'm going to have to vacuum or something later to clean it up. The interior of this is probably going to be awful, and as we go through this, you'll see why I don't like this case. So let me power this guy on and make it not the highest speed because we really don't need that. And here we go. So you can already see one of the problems with these rails is they don't actually align to the rack unit correctly. So you can see that this stuff is scratched here. And that's being scratched by something that is properly aligned, the next host up. So absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Not a fan of the way that they've done that. The other problem with these rails is they are greasier than normal rails, so they just become a mess. And I mean, I've worked in plenty of enterprise environments and rails are usually not this bad. The bearings are not very good, and the clips, you might have even seen when I was trying to pull it out there, the clips that you grab on the sides to release it from the rail mount are just really poorly designed and don't actually click correctly. So it's just, yeah, just overall not a good design. Would not recommend it. So I'm going to try here with this. See if I can get this a little bit nicer. Yeah, here we go. Don't care too much about it. This stuff's going to be deep cleaned, and then the idea is that later these chassis are actually going to be replaced with either Silverstone or 45 Home Lab cases, so that's another project down the road. I just have not gotten around to anything like that yet. So I'll get my screwdriver ready here, and there's screws on the sides here. Hopefully I'm not blocking too much, but there's screws on the side here, and they strip out really, really easy. And so in fact, I think one might be missing from this chassis already, or if it's not, it's the other chassis. Yeah, it looks like it's the other chassis. And sorry about the camera here, guys. I'm still kind of space constrained for the next few months, but hopefully by the end of the year or end of the summer, I will have more space in here and also have some other areas to shoot in, and then we should be in a much better place on this front. Yep, and here's that stripped out screw. So it's not missing, but it's stripped so bad it barely stays in. So it was like stuff like that where I'm like, it was easy to strip. Like it shouldn't strip that easy. Anyway, take the case off. And my complaints about this, like, to be clear, are also much more along the line of like the quality of the case doesn't really match the price. And if they'd done a good job with the rails, among other things, I would have been pretty happy with it, but they just didn't. So hopefully you can see that okay. I can pull it a little more towards the front here. So yeah, hopefully that's decently visible. You can see I replaced all the fans with Noctua fans, so we put those in here to keep it quiet. So that is the nice thing, is this thing is whisper quiet. I've actually got Noctua fans here in the front as well. And if I'm going to be honest, this is not quite as awfully dusty as I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be pretty bad, but it really wasn't. And then I've got this Silverstone 1500 watt power supply in here. This is the Strider Titanium, so I figured this is the chassis that I want to put it in because it's got the biggest power supply out of any of the chassis that I'm running. I mean, they all could run to 1080 Ti's, but you know, I'd rather have it in the higher wattage chassis, and then it's going to be easier to wire up. I'm going to have to go find the other wires for the other PCIe card. I do have this Aorus PCIe to M.2 adapter in here that came with actually the motherboard for the 3970X. So I'm gonna have to remove that and see how that goes. So that's gonna be an interesting one because I boot from this WD Blue 500 gig. So I don't know if I even have more storage in here or not. So I'm gonna have to take that apart and we will find out. But for now, I'm just gonna blow this thing out and be obnoxious for a minute. So actually not as bad as I thought. The dust filters on the front do a decent job, so I'm kind of impressed with that. I thought this was going to be worse. Also, pro tip, I do not recommend getting your long hair caught in one of these. That hurt pretty bad. I don't think that came in on the film at all. I think I was too far back, but yeah, that was not the most fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the case top here and put it back on top. Or not yet. Sorry, I'm being out of order here. I'm going to remove the expansion card here and put it on top so we can take a look and see what's actually in this. Because I didn't think I put any SSDs in it, but maybe I'm dumb and I did. And I don't know what I would be hosting on it if I did, because there's not really very much on this server right now. So modern boards do a better job with that, I will say. I don't like anything that's not super recent doesn't have the you know, the quick release buttons that you can reach elsewhere, so it can be hard to get those out. Doesn't matter how many times you do it, it's always annoying. Okay. And somebody's gonna yell about me not doing this on an ESD space, but you know what? I've decided I don't care. So, yell away. It's been a long time since I took this card apart. I used to have a bunch of M.2s in my old workstation build, but I've since moved to more consumer-oriented hardware, which is why, like, the 3970X used to be in a workstation, actually. So I haven't taken this apart in a long time, and I might have just stuck it in here for safekeeping, or there might be a 2 terabyte M.2 in here. I'm just not sure. And I think I'm taking it apart correctly. It's also been a long time, so hopefully I'm doing the right ones here. Hopefully that shows up okay on camera as well. Yeah, it looks like it's not too bad. Using a different lens this time. We'll see if it ends up a little bit sharper. A lot of my videos end up fairly soft, I know that much. So, man, I miss this era of computing, I'm not gonna lie. Back when I had the 3970X and the 1080 Ti's, I had 2 1080 Ti's and a 1070 in one rig, which I know is a weird combo, but they were used for all kinds of stuff. Okay. There are 4 M.2s in here. Oh, yes, these are my old... That's right. These are my old ADATA 512 gigs. These are TLC drives. They're kind of mediocre. I don't even remember why I bought 4 of them. I think they were on like a really crazy good sale or something, but I don't think I'm running anything on these. I'm pretty sure it's all on the SSDs, and everything on the server's not that important anyway, or if it is, it's backed up, so I can just restore to the other SSDs. So I'm just going to put this guy back together and use this in another box later. I'm actually working on plans for a new build. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be in the same case, the Enthoo Elite that I've used for a very, very long time. I've got some videos on the channel of that with the rig. I've gone through several rigs in it, actually, because that case is just like the case to beat all cases. But there is that new Thermaltake AX1000 with the AX200 pedestal, which is the like double wide, like kind of Case Labs style case. And I never ended up getting a Case Labs case. I always was just like, it's a little too expensive, I'll do it later. And I ended up deeply regretting that because they went out of business. And it's looking more and more like they might not come back. Somebody bought them and they were supposed to be bringing them back, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I'm sitting here seeing this Thermaltake case that's so enormous. And, you know, it's not cheap, but at the same time, I'm kind of a collector of big cases. You'll see on the channel I also have the Tower 900 from Thermaltake, which was a really interesting case. I still have it. It's actually sitting right next to me. You probably saw it in the intro, actually sitting over there. And anyway, point is I actually really like the big format cases and kind of collect the big format cases. So I'm thinking that I may end up just getting the AX1000 anyway, and then do a build in it later. But I don't know. It's such a bad time to be a PC builder, you know, and it's really unfortunate, but it's true. It's like, if you like it, that's great, but you can't afford anything right now. Like, nobody can. So, you know, that's also why I like repurposing old hardware is great and stuff, but man, it's just, it's rough times right now if you're a PC enthusiast. It's, you know, even if you were like going completely, like, it doesn't matter what tier you're at. If you're going over the top or if you're doing like very, very little, it really doesn't make a difference. Like, it's just too expensive for everybody right now. And so even if you were the type of person that was like, oh yeah, I'm willing to spend like 10 grand to build a crazy over the top, like multi-GPU, like workstation, right? Which, like, if you're one of those people, you know who you are. Right now, that same system is going to be like 20 grand. Like, everything's like double the cost. And it's just like, that's so ridiculous that most people won't even do it. It's just insane. And I don't blame anybody for that, you know? I mean, I won't either. And so that's why I'm sitting here like, I might get the Thermaltake case that I'm wanting, but it also feels like, you know, okay, I'm going to buy it, but when am I going to actually be able to like use it for more than a more basic build, especially because multi-GPU setups for gaming are dead. Okay, it took a bit to find it because I didn't have it in the box. I have it in a Ziploc. Okay, so now I'm just going to go grab the 1080 Ti from this unit down here, which I'm actually not going to readjust the camera for because I am being lazy right now. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, well, it was a little dirtier than I expected, but we'll get this guy installed, and then I found those power cables, so it should be good on that front. Well, it's turned out to be a little more goofy than I realized, and some of you might have even noticed this before I noticed this. Oh my, I can't believe I didn't catch this. This is a 1070, not a 1080 Ti. I had two 1080 Ti's in the old rig, and I actually think I did end up selling or giving one of them away. I don't even remember. So this guy here is not a 1080 Ti to 1070, but we're going to go through with this anyway because it's worth trying, and I'm curious to see what the performance of that's like, and more GPU horsepower is more GPU horsepower. And the 1070 wasn't a bad card or anything anyway. So anyway, I'll get this guy wired up, and then we're just going to put everything back together, and then we'll jump over to the XCP-ng side to show what the pass-through and everything looks like. And I say XCP-ng, I really mean like Zen Orchestra as well, which is where you configure the pass-through on Zen Orchestra. You don't have to use the XCP-ng CLI anymore. It's a good power supply too. It's just a little bit more obnoxious than I would like. So I ended up switching to an AX1600i on the desktop system a while ago, because this thing was just a little noisier than I wanted it to be. It doesn't have a 0 RPM fan mode, I don't think, and regardless, it was just louder than I wanted it to be. It was the loudest thing in my system when I had done a system that was really rather focused on trying to be as quiet as possible. So you can imagine that that was a little bit frustrating. And let's make sure that these get routed in a way that they hopefully don't get jammed into the fans. I don't think they will. Noctua fans for everything, man, I will say that. There's just no point in buying any others. I mean, unless you really care about RGB. And of course, like, these are all the brown fans, so, they're used for my servers because I don't care about the looks. I use the Chromax black units for other stuff. But anyway, we got the GPU in, so we got both GPUs in there. So yeah, again, it's a 1080 Ti and a 1070, not two 1080 Ti's. I'm a little bit disappointed that I had completely forgotten which GPU I put in the box down here, which is just going to run as headless, so it doesn't matter what GPU goes in there. And I figured it was a waste just having it sit there, but I feel a little bit goofy on that, but you know what? Oh well, this works. This should get the job done. And then at some point, we will, or I guess next, we'll jump into XCP-ng once I put this back together, and hopefully both of the GPUs are visible, and if they are, then we should be good to run Ollama or like a DaVinci Resolve remote renderer, or even just install like Handbrake or something on it, depending on what I want to do. There's also like, there's like distributed remote rendering and stuff that you can get as well, and I've thought about testing some of those and making some videos on it, just because there's, I think there's one called TDAR that is like a distributed remote rendering system. I've thought about doing that. I've just never gotten around to it. That may happen with this system. It's just going to depend. The part of the problem is that I build my desktop to be like a proper workstation, right? So the point of my desktop is to render fast. And so I've got a 4090 in that and a 7950X, or no, 7550X 3D. So my desktop rig is already going to be really fast. So really, if this is going to be used for like remote rendering, it's probably not going to be for DaVinci Resolve, other than maybe to set that up for a video to show people, because it's just going to be so much slower. The other issue is that, well, yeah, it's going to be slower. It's less convenient. This thing doesn't have a 10 gig NIC in it right now either, so that's going to slow things down further. So I think the more likely is this would end up getting used for like a distributed remote rendering, for like going through a library of videos and compressing them when new codecs come out and stuff like that. That's more the direction that my brain goes with this sort of system. All right, so now we're logged into XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra, really, and I was going to walk you guys through a few things. So first, a correction, because I actually made multiple mistakes in the filming of the original bit there, so I wanted to correct those first. It was not a 1080 Ti, which I mentioned towards the end of the filming of that section. It's also not a 1070, which is what I thought it was. It's a 970. So it's not actually going to be useful for this process, and at some point I'm probably going to go back in there and actually remove it. They're all reference cards, unfortunately, so it was a little bit hard to tell which was which, and I didn't actually look at the model number. I could tell by the power connectors that it definitely wasn't another 1080 Ti. That was my mistake. It was not a 1070 either. I guess I got rid of my 1070 and 1080 Ti a while ago. They might be sitting in another rig somewhere that I don't remember. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that, because I was actually hoping to use two 1080 Ti's so I'd have more VRAM for this project. But regardless, it'll still be fun to play around with. So I'm in Zen Orchestra here, and I will walk you guys through what it would look like to do the pass-through on this anyway, just so that you can see it. So I'm actually already logged in to the host here, and I can show you what some of this looks like, or into the VM, but I'm actually going to show you the host view first, just so that you can see what it would look like. So if I go over to hosts here, then it's this host. It's my second one, is the one that I need to use. And if I go to advanced, you can scroll through this, And down further, it'll show you PCI devices that are available. Now, towards the top, it'll tell you the GPUs that are installed as well, so you can use that if you need it. But that's not where you like assign them for use in the host. So or in VM. So where you assign them is in the PCI section, and this is searchable, which is really nice. But there's a key point: you don't want to search for the GPU like model. You want to search for the GPU silicon model name. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a sec. You'll see there's like GP102. Now, the reason that if you're going to search, now I would just look through these manually, honestly, so that you make sure you get them all, because you want every single PCIe device and PCIe address that, or ID, I guess, technically, that the GPU uses to be passed through the VM. Otherwise, you're going to have driver issues and other stuff like that. So you'll see here, this is VGA compatible controller. This is the 1080 Ti, which I already had set up for pass-through. But it's not the only one that needs to be set up. You also need the HDMI audio controller in this case. And sometimes there can be more than just those two. It's going to depend on what GPU you're using. So you want to make sure you pass through all of the PCI IDs that the GPU is using in order to make it reliable. Now, if I was going to get the 970, I'm not actually going to do this because there's no point since I'm planning to remove this card now that I know that it's a 970. But if I was going to do the pass-through on the 970, all you have to do now in Modern Zen Orchestra is tick this box. And then you do have to reboot the host, because what it's doing is it's modifying Grub so that it's not using that GPU for the host and making it so that it's just an available PCI device. So I say GPU, really it's PCI device, making it so that it's available to pass through to VM. So I'm going to cancel that because, again, I don't need to pass that one through. But in this case, I would also need to pass through this GM204 here. So you can do it with anything that's attached to PCI, which is great. Now, obviously, you don't want to do it to like certain things because you might need these for the hosts. So I think GPUs is going to be the most common. You'll probably see some HBAs or some RAID cards if people are virtualizing their NAS. I still generally don't think people should do that, but if you're going to do it, you definitely should do PCI pass-through. And probably don't use a hardware RAID card at all. Let's be honest, we're kind of beyond that at this point. But if you were doing that, that would be another thing you could pass through. Or you could pass through an Ethernet controller if you needed that for like a firewall or something, so that it's more like a direct attached device. I still don't think you should be virtualizing firewalls either, but those are all conversations for other times. All right, so once it is ready and you've rebooted the host, so once you've ticked the box for pass-through and you've rebooted the host, you can go back into the actual VM and then over to the advanced tab. Now, the VM needs to be powered off, so I'll do that here in a second. But in the advanced tab, you will scroll down to attached PCIs, and you can use this to assign PCI devices like GPUs to the VM. Now, what I'm going to do here first is just show you the LSPCI output in the VM so you can see that it shows what is showing up as a PCI device to the actual virtual machine. And you'll see this is all like emulated stuff, so you'll see like some of the Intel stuff. You'll see the network adapters in here. So this will change once we attach the GPUs. So I'm going to do a shutdown here. And then once that's powered off, I will attach the GPU and then boot it back up and show you what that looks like. So now it's powered off. I can go down here and attach PCI, and you'll see what I will do here is it'll show the ones that are available. So it's only the ones that you've actually tick marked to be available for pass-through. And you want to select both of them in this case because they are both part of that GPU. And you'll even see the PCI address here will be very, very similar between the two because it's, I don't know the correct term. I'm losing the correct term, but it's like a sub device, right, of the same PCI device. So it's not going to be a completely different PCI address. So I click OK. Those are now passed through that VM, and I can boot it back up here. All right, so I'm logged back in here and ready to go. And if I put in LSPCI, you will see here now that you can actually see the two devices, the 1080 Ti in this case, and its HDMI audio controller are attached to this VM. So at that point, I'm ready to install drivers, which is going to be the same way that you would install drivers on any VM. I'm running Ubuntu here. Ubuntu has their own driver packages. There's a million articles online about how to do that, so I'm not really going to go into that. But this is what it would look like for PCI pass-through, and you could do that on multiple GPUs. So you could totally have a situation where you have like 4 GPUs in a host, and say you are just doing like AI stuff and you don't need the orchestration that's required by the CPU. So like you've got a beefy CPU and a virtual machine. You're not doing this bare metal because you really just need the GPU horsepower, and you can use those extra CPU cycles for something else. This would be a great use case where you could like put 4 GPUs and attach them all into a virtual machine that you're using for some large language model, and then you've still got all that available like CPU horsepower and RAM that you can assign to run other virtual machines. So it's a good way to like kind of utilize your resources better. Now again, I'm not really a big AI person. There's some interest in some cool tools that it's used for, but as I said, kind of in the beginning section, there are maybe better use cases, but like again, a distributed GPU rendering server, or maybe you are doing like video editing in a larger scale environment and you need like a centralized place that does the rendering, then you could use DaVinci Resolve and work as a team that way and have the rendering done by a beefy server in a closet somewhere instead of having to have like really powerful endpoints that are running everything. So that's another example of something that this would be good for. But this is what it looks like to do PCI pass-through. And I guess that's basically going to be the end of the video. So this video really was just me doing a server project and then showing the simplicity of PCI pass-through. I don't know, maybe I'll even adjust the video to, maybe I'll release a separate video just including the PCI pass-through portion or something. I'm not sure, but that was a fun project. It was good to get the server cleaned up and everything. I've got a lot more stuff coming on that front, and I'm working on reformatting the space over here, the space in the garage, etc., so that I can hopefully start to, you know, dish out content at a more reasonable pace. So that is something that I'm working on. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get all of that in place, but the goal is by end of like summer. So like by like September is what I'm hoping to be able to start to do like a faster cadence for some stuff. But you may see some more talking head style videos like this, or even just like videos with screen recording going over some stuff. I've got quite a few ideas of random tutorials and stuff, and I don't personally, especially with like XCP-ng, I don't feel like there's enough content on it anymore, and I might do some pfSense content as well, just because there's not as many people covering that anymore, because Ubiquity Unify has kind of taken over for, I think, mostly good reason, if I'm honest, but pfSense still has like reasons you want to use it, OpenSense as well, so I may go over some of the more niche use cases there. But let me know in the comments like what you want to see, if you guys have an interest in something enterprise tech, something really like niche and specific. I've had some weird use cases that I've had to use pfSense for that like most other firewalls just like wouldn't function, so, or wouldn't be a good fit for it. So that's something that I can cover as well. But thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.